Hey, Gene.
Hello, Bill.
Long time no see, man. We've been super busy, haven't we?
So we have been super busy. You got your hands in a whole lot of stuff regarding Nutraselect AI and all of that. And I've been hopping around here and there, going to different trade shows and conferences, and so we're both super busy.
Yep, super busy, and so sorry we were not able to get a podcast in the month of May. Well, we're close; it's June 2nd, but that's the way it goes. But again, with travel and like Gene said, with everything we've got going, it's a big deal. But we have a cool show for you today, and that is about the title is "Cracking the Code: The 12 Hallmarks of Aging and the Bioactive Path to Longevity." So, we're going to dig into that. And again, this is another segment in our series called The Bioactive Insight. I love that. So 12 Hallmarks of Aging, Gene. Pretty cool, right? We're going to bring in
and you know what's funny?
Yeah.
I was just going to say what's funny is as we there was a time when it was 6. Then the authors, Lopez Oten et al., who had done articles on the 9 hallmarks of aging, then updated it again to now make it 12 hallmarks of aging. And that's the beauty about science. You look at the stuff and you say, okay, there's more data, or there's different data. We have to adapt our thinking. And so I love the fact that there are now 12 hallmarks of aging. Just had to say
that. I appreciate you saying that because, as getting my PhD in chemistry, I used to think before I went into the PhD program at university, I used to think, oh man, this is like black and white. I used to think science was black and white. That's what the mainstream media portrays it as. But the reality is so much grayer than that. And it's always open to interpretation, and also new information comes in and changes things. So you're right to call out that the article by Lopez Oten, it's now the 12 Hallmarks of Aging, and that was in 2013 in Cell magazine that came out. So we're going to bring this intersection of aging biology into our world of nutraceutical science, right? So let's jump into it. Let's go through each of the 12 hallmarks and what supplement ingredients are out there and good research that actually support this particular thing. Then that's going to guide you on your supplement stack that you want to take here to increase your health span. So the first one, Gene, genomic instability. And what is that, folks? So again, this is accumulation of DNA damage that happens from environmental and endogenous sources. That means internally, right? And there's a variety of reasons for that. And I think probably for this one, this is a premier one in terms of the hallmark of aging, but antioxidants have always been touted for years now, in terms of anti-aging, and now we're talking healthy aging, that sort of thing, and so on. So just to go through some of those ingredients, we have astaxanthin, and again, there's been research to show that reduces DNA damage. Markers in lymphocytes. Okay, there was a study on the reduction of oxidative DNA damage with astaxanthin supplementation, which is very cool. We always suspected this years ago, but now there's more and more research on this to really show that. Do you remember way back the first functional beverages, in my opinion, were all those superfruit, acai and mangosteen and all those different functional drinks. Yeah. Well, I was playing in that space at the time.
Very well.
One of those as well. Resveratrol, of course, that's been around for some time. It activates the sirtuins and
that was a fun one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It improves DNA.
I was just saying that was a fun one because
why?
That's right. And you look and then the sirtuins were a big deal. That was Remember, everybody out there, you had the French paradox. The French are eating all these high-fat cheeses and smoking, and yet they're having less cardiovascular disease and all this stuff. And because the resveratrol is impacting DNA and causing an increase in these specific sirtuin proteins, or SIRT1, and it's impacting the our DNA in different ways. So that was a big one. I remember that when that first came out.
And it was actually, I brought a product to market in 2007 and actually launched it at Expo West. And it was a super antioxidant drink concentrate. And, keen on what you're talking about, there's a lot of epidemiological evidence in terms of support the Mediterranean diet or whatever. So remember, olive oil is part of that. Well, what people may not know is that that comes from the fruit of the tree, the olive, but also the leaves. Olive leaf tea is drunk all through the Mediterranean and so on for years. And again, that has even more potent in terms of antioxidant components. And that's what I was on a fresh olive leaf. I based my super antioxidant drink concentrate. I was the one who introduced that to the U.S. market. Later, they did a deal with Barleans, and now they still have that on the market. But I was the first one to bring it to U.S. So again, antioxidants, really powerful. NAD plus boosters, like NMN and stuff like that. They also enhance DNA repair and have been shown to do that. So what's our second hallmark, Gene?
That's right. And, well, I just want to add one thing to the genomic instability thing, is that back in graduate school, back in, I don't remember, sometime in the 2000s, I was doing a course in the biology of aging. And they were talking then it was something like 6 different areas of aging. And one of them had to do with, oxidation, oxidative stress. And that really fits in nicely into the genomic instability. It can fit into other areas. But so if you're wondering, where do antioxidants fit in? They really fit in here quite well, because antioxidants help in the prevention of damage, not just the repair. It's also the prevention of damage. And so I just wanted to mention that. So next is telomere attrition. And telomeres, for anybody who doesn't know, are these little stretches of DNA at the end of chromosomes. And they're kind of called sacrificial DNA because every time your cell divides, it slices off a little piece of that. But that's okay, because it's like sort of blank DNA. It doesn't have any genetic material in it. And it sacrifices itself so that as your cells replicate, they can keep doing so because they slice a little piece off. But eventually you reach a place where there's no more, the cell can't divide anymore. There's no more telomere left, and it can't slice off a piece of the genetic material, so it stops. And so that's why you want to do everything you can to maintain telomere length, to help add to your telomere length. And to that extent, I'd say the first big material out there that really promoted this concept was the TA65, the astragalus extract. And it was shown to help extend telomere length in peripheral blood cells in a 12-month study. Of course, it is not the only thing that does that. There are actually quite a few different nutraceuticals that have that effect. You have omega-3 fatty acids. When you have a higher intake of that, that's associated with longer telomeres in different studies. And of course, one of my favorites is vitamin D. Bill, you remember when vitamin D was just that vitamin you took to help you absorb your calcium, and then suddenly
for bone
one day,
density,
everybody noticed, hey, there's all these vitamin D receptors basically everywhere in the body. Maybe vitamin D does other things. And we found out, in fact, it does. And one of the many things it does is it helps with telomere length. And so you're seeing a number of studies that have shown that if you don't have enough vitamin D, you have shorter telomeres. And if you have more vitamin D, you have longer telomeres. And so we're seeing that actually supplementing with it makes a difference. Now, on a personal level, one of the things I'm excited about is a material that Nutraland USA has called Muracell. And what it is, it's a rice germ extract, but what it contains is a compound called spermidine. And And spermidine, in this particular case, is one of the many things that's been shown to be helpful in with regard to telomere length and helping to maintain telomere length so it doesn't shorten quite so quickly. And in our Miracell a couple of years ago, we had done a study, a laboratory study, demonstrating that it actually helped maintain the telomere length, so the telomeres didn't shorten so quickly. So that was one of the several different things that help with telomere length.
Mm-hmm.
And how about the next one there, Bill? You want to hit that?
Yep. The number 3 in the hallmarks of aging, epigenetic alterations, or in more common terms, how you modify gene expression. Okay, so
Yep.
Everything that we intake, whether it's in our environment, whatever we eat, all these things have the ability to impact our DNA. You can't change your DNA, but you can impact the way it expresses in your body, either positively or negatively, actually, right? If you think about
That's
it.
right.
And how does it do that? It helps. These ingredients would, maybe modify DNA methylation, histone modification, chromatin remodeling. Just think of it as just changing the DNA or modifying the genes to express in a certain way, in a positive way. And that's what we're talking about, in a positive way. We don't want to do it negatively. So curcumin is kind of one of those. And again, this is not a comprehensive list on any of these hallmarks. There's other ingredients that we could add to the list, but probably the most current research are on these types of ingredients. So curcumin has been shown to modulate histone acetylation. So that's where you do acetylate, without getting too chemically terminology here, because again, this is for consumers, but the bottom line is it modulates the DNA. And there's been human studies that show it reduces inflammatory gene expression. So reducing inflammation is a big part of, healthy aging. Another one's from broccoli. Okay, I eat broccoli every week, probably several times a week. It's a really good vegetable to eat. And you have this sulforaphane, which comes from broccoli sprouts, right? And what that does is shown inhibition for HDAC. Actually, I don't remember what HDAC is. Gene, do you recall?
Well, don't feel too bad, Bill, because I don't remember what it's called either.
It's my fault. I should have actually written it out here. I didn't catch that. But anyway, it has to do with improving gene expression profiles. Okay. So again, these cruciferous vegetables, which are part of, let's bring it back to the Mediterranean diet, right? Okay, there's a big part of that. Have some great components in there. And so you've got Brussels sprouts, you've got broccoli, you've got what else? Other types of vegetables that fall in that have these same sorts of chemical compounds there. And of course, resveratrol, we already mentioned that. Again, that ties into the whole diet sort of thing, but it can influence genetic markers as well. So again, that's epigenetic alterations or modifying gene expression. And we want to be able to do that in a positive way. I like to think, I know the term is getting used a lot now, biohacking. Remember, we did an episode on this, but
goodness, yes.
This is your biohacking supplement stack we're talking about here to modify your gene expression.
Right, which could affect almost anything. It
could.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Take it away, number 4, Gene.
All right. So the next one is loss of proteostasis. And so what that is our proteins. We have all kinds of different proteins in the body. And it's not just a long chemical chain. I mean, it is. It's a chain of amino acids and stuff, but it's in the shape of it, the way it folds. You have certain proteins that are folded in certain directions, shaped in a certain way, and that shape gives it a form that gives it some functionality. And when that protein folding is impaired or it degrades, then you have a loss of proteostasis, and that protein doesn't work as well. Think of it this way. Let's say you have a key and it has a certain amount of metal in it. Okay, you bend the key, it doesn't fit in a lock. Okay, you still have the same stuff, but it's folded in the wrong way, so it's not going to work. And that's what happens here. So what are things that you can do? Well, one of the things that you can do is you can use nutraceuticals that can help prevent that loss of proteostasis. One of them, and I'm not going to go into too much detail yet because I'm going to go into it more later. One of them is spermidine, and that induces autophagy, the cell's process of cleaning up old damaged cell parts and kind of revitalizing the cell. And in that way, you help to prevent impaired protein folding. So I'll give a little bit more about that later. But heck, I'll do it now. Anyway, so Miracell, which I mentioned earlier, is a rice germ extract that's a source of spermidine. Okay, and it has other what we call polyamines, the group of compounds to which spermidine belongs. And we did a human clinical trial, and it was the first of its kind. Spermidine has a reputation as being a something that promotes autophagy, but all the research has always been done as epidemiological population studies, where they say, people who are eating foods higher in spermidine tend to have better autophagy. But that shows a relationship. It doesn't show causation. So you can't definitively demonstrate that if you take spermidine is going to have that specific effect. But we did a study where we used 3.3 milligrams of spermidine from Miracell in human subjects and looked at two different markers of autophagy. And what we found was it quite literally increased those markers. So we were able to demonstrate that it increased autophagy. To my knowledge, the first and only study shown to do that. And it showed some other benefits as well, other cardiovascular benefits, metabolic benefits. I'll go into that later. But so spermidine is something that can really, really help autophagy, particularly Miracell. Then there's a lot of people know this one, N-acetylcysteine or NAC.
Before you go on, sorry, I wanted to ask about the spermidine. You said it comes from the rice germ. So is that so? What part of the plant is that? Is that you have the rice kernel that's harvested for rice?
Yeah.
Is spermidine in rice, or is it somewhere, some other part of the plant?
Yeah, it is. It is in rice. So if you think any kind of a grain has broadly three different parts. It has the germ, the endosperm, and the bran. The bran is the layer on the outside. Then you have the body of it. Most of it is the starchy part we call the endosperm. Then in the middle is the little germ. Think of it like an egg. The egg shell would be like the fiber, the white would be like the starchy endosperm, and the yolk would be the germ. Well, what happens is when they make white rice, they mill it, they remove the bran, and they remove the germ, and you just have this purified white rice. And while it makes nice fluffy rice and all of that stuff and makes your sushi rice stick together nicely, it lacks all of the nutrients that you would normally have. And so with Miracell, we actually rescue the germ, the rice germ, and are able to utilize it, upcycle it for its spermidine content and some of its other nutraceutical compounds.
Is it contained in the brown rice?
N-acetylcysteine.
Yes.
Brown
rice?
Yes.
Yeah,
we have brown rice brown rice has the germ.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have the germ, you're going to have some of those. Of course, it takes a whole lot of brown rice to get a substantial amount of spermidine, but yes, it is in there.
Okay. Cool.
So on N-acetylcysteine, one of its big claims to fame is it helps to promote the production of glutathione, a primary antioxidant in our body. And because of what it does, and it's also involved, by the way, in one of the detoxification pathways in the liver, the glutathione pathway. And it also helps to support the whole process of protein folding. So NAC is literally an agent to promote proper protein folding. So you're in good shape if you're trying to reduce proteostasis, because you've got something here that actually will help with the protein folding. Also, green tea extract and its EGCG, some of those catechin compounds, helps to reduce the aggregation of protein, sort of the breakdown and reduction of protein in a bad way. It's been shown to do that in cell research. And human studies have shown that it reduced the proteins that folded wrong. There were markers of that, and it showed that it helped to reduce that. So we're seeing, again, it's another compound that helps in preventing the loss of proteostasis. So spermidine, NAC, green tea, 3 great ones for that purpose.
Yeah.
And Bill,
Cool.
why don't you take the next one then?
Sure. Number 5 is in our hallmarks of aging is deregulated nutrient sensing. So obviously this is a process within our cells that gets disrupted as we age as well. But what it does is it disrupts different key nutrient sensing pathways. So like mTOR or AMPK or insulin slash AGF1. So one ingredient that's got some good research around all these areas has been berberine. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
one of my favorites.
Yeah. And it activates AMPK, which is has similar metabolic effects to metformin. It's been shown in randomized clinical trials. And so what that means is it improves insulin sensitivity, right? And as we age, this kind of degrades. This becomes a problem. Yeah, my father was a diabetic. Okay, so if you don't have a healthy lifestyle, and because type 2 diabetes is age related, it can be prevented by lifestyle. And so if you're not, and now this helps overcome some of the things with aging, unless you have some predisposition for it or whatever. It's not the same as type 1, but all type 2 diabetes is preventable through lifestyle. So eating right, obviously exercise, these sorts of things. So these are going to minimize the effects. And of course, taking great supplements like berberine. There's actually a study shown with berberine and chromium that actually enhances glucose metabolism via this AMPK pathway. And then also there's been some human trials that show reductions in insulin resistance in fasting glucose, right? So this is when you do your fasting before you go do your blood work. Obviously, you want to have your fasting glucose levels below 100, right? Is ideal. I forgot what range it's exactly, but it's below 100 is a good thing. Anything you want to add to that, Gene, in terms of related to GLP-1 or something? That's kind of almost.
Yeah. So in terms of again, down-regulated nutrient sensing. So, you touched on it with chromium, you touched on it in berberine. Yeah. And while it's not specifically a disruption of nutrient sensing per se, there's a relationship. So one of the nutrients that we take is folic acid, which is actually, folate is the nutrient. Folic acid is a synthetic form of it. And because we have about maybe 30% of the population that is unable to convert folic acid into its active folate form, in this case, a methylfolate, it's not that your body can't sense the folate in the form of folic acid, but it comes out to be about the same thing because it can't really utilize it. So I would just encourage people to seriously consider using a methylfolate, unless you know for sure that you're one of those people that don't have a problem converting it, since there's so many who do. So I would just add that to the list.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Number 6, Gene.
Yeah, mitochondrial dysfunction. That one has been around for a little while now. Mitochondria, those little powerhouses in the cell that produce energy for us, produce ATP. Now, in the process of producing ATP, you also generate a side product of reactive oxygen species, free radical type compounds that can create some damage. But you want to make sure your mitochondrial energy production is going well, so you got a good balance between that and your reactive oxygen species generation. And when you have mitochondrial dysfunction, you have a problem because you don't have enough energy. It's going to affect almost every area of your health and well-being. And so there are things you could do to help with that. Certainly, coenzyme Q10 is a big one. It's been shown to help with mitochondrial efficiency. And in the energy pathways, the last one, which we call oxidative phosphorylation, or just electron transport for short, that's where oxygen becomes involved and helps you make your ATP. CoQ10 is actively involved in that part. When you have enough CoQ10, you're much better at making your ATP. So your mitochondria is functioning better, and you have improved energy production. Now, PQQ is another one that came on the scene, I want to say around a dozen years ago or so.
That's
It
probably right.
got kind of popular. They were like, is it a new B vitamin? Well, whether it's a B vitamin or not, probably not. But it was shown to do some interesting things. And one of the things that was really interesting is it was shown to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. What's that? It helps your cells make new mitochondria. So you can actually make new mitochondria at more than you started out with. So you can make more energy factories. And so that is a very, very cool thing to be able to do. And PQQ is very good at that. And there's been a number of studies on PQQ combined with CoQ10 with regard to its impact on the mitochondria and mitochondrial function. Now, another one is the amino acid L-carnitine. Now, L-carnitine is known for a number of things, but it actually helps to transport fatty acids into the energy-making machinery to help your body. First of all, you burn the fats as a fuel, so that's a good thing. But that also helps the production of ATP in the mitochondria. And randomized controlled trials have shown improved exercise capacity in older adults and people who are overweight. Sometimes don't always have enough carnitine. There's been at least a couple of randomized controlled trials showing that when you add carnitine to a program of diet and exercise, you can actually burn fat more effectively, which also means you're making energy more effectively. And then alpha-lipoic acid, another one of in fact, these four, the CoQ10, the PQQ, the carnitine, and the alpha-lipoic acids are kind of like the four corners, the four pillars of mitochondrial health. And alpha-lipoic acid is an antioxidant. It helps to recycle other antioxidants. It helps to reduce oxidative stress, and it's involved in this whole process of healthy mitochondrial function. So if you can do a combination of those four, you're doing some pretty good stuff for your mitochondria. And Bill, you want to take that next one?
Sure. So the next one is cellular senescence. And so what is senescence? That's a state of where the cells stop dividing, but actually remain metabolically active. And various reasons for that. Aging, of course, is a major one. That's why we're talking about it, but also stress and DNA damage also creates problems as well.
Well, there's the telomere issue that you get to a point you're going to have cellular senescence when you lose your telomeres.
So there's a few ingredients out there. There's a little bit of research on this. So fisetin, which is actually a bioflavonoid. There's a human pilot trial that's been done on that reduced senescent cell burden. Quercetin, that's been around for a long time, and that's ubiquitous in plant biology or nature. You'll find that in green coffee beans, St. John's wort. I mean, seriously, it's present in a lot of that flavonoid, and we're talking flavonoids here, seem to have some impact here. So again, if you think about it, this ties back to, the Mediterranean diet, for example. So if you're eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, you're getting a lot of these flavonoids in your diet. So this is going to obviously have some mix. So it kind of explains the epidemiological support there that we've seen over decades with certain types of diets. But anyway, quercetin plus dasatinib is shown to, there was some recent research in this. Again, this is a pilot study, but it reduced senescent markers as well. Epigenetic is, there's some preclinical data showing senolytic effects here. So, but there's limited human data in this space in terms of these ingredients. But you can kind of see where it's going if you look at these. These are flavonoid type compounds, right? So they're in that, they have that same chemical structure. So they're obviously having some impact on this issue. And what happens when you have an accumulation of these senescent cells? I forgot to mention. Well, they end up secreting pro-inflammatory cytokines. So it's going to impact inflammation.
Yeah.
inflammation in the body, which is not a cool thing. Anyway, take the next one, Gene.
All right. Stem cell exhaustion. Well, people have heard about stem cells. People have heard about stem cells, and they may know that stem cells are interesting because your body can kind of use them to create other kinds of cells and do a number of different things, help with cellular renewal, regeneration. And so, you see about it, you hear about it in stuff like, topical cosmetics. You hear about it in terms of disease research. You hear it in a number of areas. But, if you get exhausted stem cells, obviously that's not a good thing. You're not going to be able to have that renewal. You're not going to be able to have that regeneration in an effective way. And so there are things that can help. One of the things that can help is anything to do with promoting NAD. We touched on that a little bit earlier, but NAD is a precursor to ATP, the energy currency. And when you have a decline in NAD, you have a situation going on that's going to affect many different areas of human health and wellness, including stem cell health. So what can you do to increase NAD? You can take NAD precursors, things like NMN, nicotinamide riboside, or just plain old niacinamide. Those are precursors that your body can use to make NAD, and that supports stem cell function. This has been shown in animal studies and some early human trials. One of my other favorite ingredients, has been around for quite literally thousands of years, used by humans, is Panax ginseng, your standard Asian variety of ginseng. And it has been shown to stimulate stem cell proliferation and in preclinical models, but it certainly has thousands of years of use. And a lot of its uses in energy and things of that nature suggest alone a benefit for stem cells. But again, the preclinical research does show that it helps in stem cell proliferation. Now, a couple of other things is colostrum and some growth factor peptides. Colostrum is what you find in sort of those first few days of mother's milk. It's a very rich fluid that mothers of different species secrete and helps to enrich the well-being and the nutrition of their offspring. And there's been a lot of studies on the use of colostrum for different purposes. And one of those is to support tissue regeneration. And again, stem cells can be used to create different kinds of cells, different kinds of tissues. So by virtue of the fact that you're showing it to support tissue regeneration in pilot studies, this strongly suggests the role in helping with stem cells. So again, colostrum could be another potential nutraceutical for use in stem cell exhaustion.
Oh.
And Bill, next one.
Number nine, altered intercellular communication. Okay, so cells communicate with each other in the body. So if the signaling gets disrupted, it can cause issues, obviously, because if the cells can't communicate, well, then they can't function properly. And also related to that is there's this process of part of the communication process has to do with the spread of inflammation, for example. So, and how these cells do that. So again, what are some ingredients that could do this? And by the way, many of these ingredients probably work in overall in a lot of these different hallmarks of aging we're talking about.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. And, maybe there's not it's not a black and white sort of thing. I want to call that out, that, it's a complex matrix, and it's really having a well-rounded approach to healthy aging in terms of what you do, exercise, what you eat, supplements you take. These things are all going to benefit you for, improving these different markers. So for this intercellular communication, omega-3s, they have huge benefit for numerous reasons in our bodies. So if you think about cardiovascular health, for example, there's some issues there, but they've been shown to reduce pro-inflammatory cytokines. So, for example, like C-reactive protein, there's shown decreases of that by taking omega-3s. This is a good thing. Curcumin's another one. There's been human trials to show that it reduces inflammatory markers as well. And probiotics and postbiotics, microbiome is huge. We've talked about this before, and we're going to continue to talk about it. A lot of research going into this space in terms of not just prebiotics, probiotics, but postbiotics, symbiotics, all these different things. There's more and more research happening in that. But again, these having a healthy microbiome is going to help restore. If you think about it, 70% plus receptors for the immune system is in your GI tract. So if you don't have good microbiome, you're going to have issues with your immune health. So, and also this, what that's doing is affecting your gut immune signaling. And then you've got the gut brain axis signaling pathway as well that's going to be interrupted. Anyway, meta-analysis has shown improved inflammatory profiles, with probiotics and postbiotics. But again, stay tuned for that. There's more research coming out on that. I'm actually taking a postbiotic. It's from ADM. It's sorry, I don't remember the exact strain, but it's got some clinical data showing reducing visceral fat in the body. So it's a pretty fascinating area. So again, lots of cool stuff happening there, man. And speaking of inflammation, that's our next one, Gene.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to you, I'm also taking a postbiotic. It's the Akkermansia, the AKK 001 strain that now Nutraceuticals is making. And that has some interesting data on it as well. And when we talk about aging, that particular strain was isolated from 30 centenarians in China. So everybody that it was isolated from was over 100 years old, and they've lived a pretty long, healthy life. So that's kind of cool. So yes, the next one, chronic inflammation or inflammaging. Basically, look, as we age, we tend to get less functionality in a number of different areas. And our body seems to have decreased effectiveness in producing certain important things. And unfortunately, seems to have increased effectiveness in producing inflammation. So anything that we can do to help with that is going to be beneficial. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why we have more injuries or more problems like arthritis and these kinds of things as we age. And those things in and of themselves can create inflammation. But if we already have a base level of inflammation that's higher, then our aches and pains are generally going to tend to be worse. So Boswellia serrata, a classic Ayurvedic herb, lots of good studies on it, showing it to help with a number of different areas of inflammation. Certainly osteoarthritis is a big one, but definitely shown to reduce inflammatory markers in the studies that have been done on Boswellia, many of them. And of course, you can't talk about inflammation in this business without mentioning curcumin from turmeric, or the curcuminoids, that whole group. A lot of studies on it showing it to lower C-reactive protein, one of the primary inflammatory markers, and other inflammatory chitokines, and just so many randomized control trials. It's a big deal out there. Make sure you use a good one, and a good one is one that's been shown to have good bioavailability. I would say the same thing about resveratrol, because dang, man, both curcumin and resveratrol have very low bioavailability. So anything you can do to improve that is a good thing. And then black seed oil. I've personally written, I think, 2 or maybe 3 articles on a black seed oil for Vitamin Retailer magazine, and it has been shown to reduce inflammation in a number of clinical trials. So that's a cool thing. And then earlier I mentioned more than once Miracell Ricestrum extract. Well, I want to step back and say that Bill was saying that you get a lot of crossover in these different hallmarks of aging in terms of the nutraceuticals used. It can help different areas, not just one. Miracell is one of those. And so another area where it helps is in the reduction of inflammation. And the same study we did showing it to increase markers of autophagy, so you could see that it's helping there. We also found that it reduced C-reactive protein by about 20% in subjects. So it had a really, and that was with the 3.3 milligrams of spermidine from Miracell. So we see that it helps there. And that's a good example of the kinds of nutraceuticals you can use that'll hit more than one area. In Miracell, it's telomeres, it's autophagy, it's inflammaging, and even cognitive health and cardiovascular health, because it's been shown to help in with VD, very low density lipoprotein, cholesterol, and triglycerides too. So any one of these things you take are likely to help in more than one area. Another was curcumin, another was omega-3 fatty acids, and it goes on.
It goes on.
Okay.
That's right. So
now the next one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
11. So we already talked a little bit about autophagy, but compromised autophagy is one of the hallmarks of aging, one of the 12 hallmarks, and what that means is that your body can't clean up all the bad cells. Your body's pretty amazing what it can do in terms of functioning, and but if it's able to clean up those cells that are need to go, then that's a good thing. But if you don't, then you get toxin buildup and dysfunction, and of course, it creates problem. Now, I'm going to talk about some nutraceutical ingredients, but actually, intermittent fasting is been shown to improve autophagy, because it's. And why is that? Why does that work that way? So it's real simple. If you're eating continuously all the time at all hours, your body's expending energy to process that food intake, and so it really doesn't have time to repair cells or clean out the bad cells that are happening from the normal cellular processes. And so it really does give a benefit to do this fasting sort of thing. So I do like a 16-8 regimen where I eat within my 8-hour window. I don't eat after 6 or 7, and then I don't eat till late morning the next day. So that most of that time's when I'm sleeping. So it's a great time for your body to recover, reduce all these sort of cells that cause problems there. So there's really good research on that. But in terms of nutraceutical ingredients, we've got spermidine. You already mentioned this one, Gene, that shows the human studies on that improving those markers. Green tea extract's a big one. It's been around for centuries. And this is reduces the aggregation markers in the trial, in clinical trials they've shown. But it actually it's a promoter of autophagy. So it's not just like intermittent fasting. It's just giving your body a chance to do what it needs to do. But it's also, if you're doing that and then taking green tea, well, then you're also accelerating that process probably in terms of inducing autophagy. And then resveratrol, another antioxidant, big antioxidant one we've talked about already. I take that every day, by the way. This also enhances autophagy as well in human and animal models. And then, Gene, we just mentioned microbiome. So,
and I just want to reiterate again what we were just saying is like, spermidine, green tea, resveratrol, they do multiple things. I mean, each of them can actually help with telomeres. Each of them can have a number of different areas of benefit. So there's a lot of good overlap here.
I think this last one, Gene, microbiome dysbiosis, this is relatively new. I think this is one of the new hallmarks of aging, I believe.
It is absolutely one of the hallmarks. We should probably do this one together because I know this is one of your areas of specialty. But look, it's a pretty simple thing. Our gut is the home to literally trillions of microbes, bacteria, some yeast, some other things. And, they have a symbiotic relationship with us. And if you've got the right balance of these in the right kind of biome, you have a situation where your body functions better. And now we know, besides working to help you with, general gut health, digestion, we now know that they play such a powerful role in the immune system. It's one of the reasons why you hear, 70% of your immune system's in your gut. It's because of your microbiome. And also, we discover that some of these same bacteria, these friendly bacteria, also are involved in the production of even some different kinds of neurotransmitters, serotonin and things like that help us with mood and brain health and so forth. So there's so many roles that they play, and dysbiosis means basically you got an imbalance there in your microbiome. Something's not quite right in that bacteria, and that
Right.
is going to cause problems. So, and promote aging. So why don't you take the first one of the groups?
Sure. Again, probiotic lens. There's been a lot of probiotics that show reduces gut permeability and also inflammation in clinical trials. And again, you've got covers the whole spectrum, not just probiotics, but there's postbiotics and others things that are also working on these indications as well. So anything you can do to improve your microbiota profile. And by the way, no one's mapped out what the ideal profile is for any one human being, because it's going to vary from individual to individual based on their lifestyle, their diet, everything. There's some general recommendations here, but the reality is it's really complex to map that out. I think somebody will do that eventually in a more general, kind of a higher level sort of thing in the future. But again, nobody's really done that in a huge way.
And you just said something that I think bears clarification for people who may not know this. But you mentioned that the probiotics can help reduce gut permeability. And I just wanted to mention the reason you want decreased permeability, so somebody who doesn't know, is, your gut is a place where different things can be absorbed, nutrients and other things. But some of the things that can get absorbed are compounds that aren't good for you, that are harmful. And your gut kind of protects you from absorbing things you shouldn't. But if you get these loose areas in your gut and it's too permeable and you get bad things absorbed, that's not good. So you don't want to have just free permeability where anything that enters the gut gets absorbed. You want to have good tight junctions there that prevent unwanted compounds from being absorbed. And that's one of the things that the probiotics can do. Now, the next one of these is our prebiotics. The food that feeds our probiotics organisms, feeds them and keeps them healthy. And man, are there a whole lot. I remember in the early days, some of the first ones that came out, it was like inulin, and then it was FOS. Now you got FOS, which is fructooligosaccharides. Now you have galacto-oligosaccharides, xylo-oligosaccharides, and it goes on and on and on. There's so many different sources of prebiotics that can feed that as well. And some of them have their own studies. There are prebiotics that's been studied for promoting healthy skin and helping keep your skin moisturized, something that you wouldn't think would translate from gut to the top of your skin, and yet it does. And so there's a lot of different, just like probiotics that do anything from A to Z, there's prebiotics now showing similar effects. And if you're in the industry and you're a brand owner and you want to do something interesting, you can play around with those prebiotics, because you can combine them together with just about any other kind of nutraceutical for some pretty cool benefits. Not the least of which is maintaining your microbiome. The last one is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I'm writing an article on this, Gene. It's one of my, in this series on functional foods for nutrition industry executive magazine.
Ooh, I need to talk to you about that before you're finished.
Okay. But there's one of the articles in the series. It's a 5-article series. I've already I've done 3 articles. Actually, I don't think the third one's been published yet, or just did actually end of May. But one of the next ones is about polyphenols, okay, in terms of functional foods and stuff like that, and microbial diversity in the gut. So we'll get into that in my article, so stay tuned for that when it drops. But berries, anything that's colored. Again, this ties back to this epidemiological evidence of eating these different colored vegetables and fruits, and all these different things are giving you a polyphenolic rich diet that's going to feed the good bacteria in your gut.
That's right. And you mentioned cocoa and cacao, and I just wanted to mention there's for brand owners out there who are interested, there's a place down in Florida called Chococeutical Innovations. Chococeutical Innovations makes these little bite-sized cacao, chocolatey little treats that you can put different nutraceuticals in, but it has a base of polyphenols and prebiotics and stuff. It's basically a food biome matrix that it has, and it's very, very cool. and that could be you could put any nutraceutical in there, but I like it because it's a great way to help maintain a healthy microbiome. So just thought I'd mention it.
Yep. Cool to mention that. So folks, that's our overview, deep dive of, again, not comprehensive list of nutraceuticals, and there's a lot of overlap, but those 12 hallmarks of aging are pretty much agreed upon in science and among scientists today and researchers. So anything that we can improve those is going to, stave off you don't want to live to be 90 and be crippled and not move around. You want to be able to live 90 and can still go swim a mile, or you know what I mean, or go do all these things.
Have a good quality of life.
You want to have a good quality of life, and so for sure these things are going to help with all that. So how to wrapping it up here, Gene? We talked about supplement stacks here, and again, you could put this in a category of biohacking because you are modifying gene expression by taking these certain ingredients and stuff like that. But again, there's some other things we need to consider, right? For example, there needs to, it needs to be the right dosage. You can't just like take any sort of
any amount of anything, right?
Right. Because there are commodity level products out there that may have that ingredient. In fact, there's a lot of things I would call commodity probiotics out there that are just like the kitchen sink biotics, but there's no research. There's no research on those, but when you get to specific strains that are tied to specific research, it's different. Okay, it's not the same, even though it may be the same genus species, right? It doesn't mean that if you just take that, you're good to go. Actually, I wanted to call something out that's fascinating. This is an area of research in the whole microbiome space, and that is that, first it was always thought about probiotics, right? Nobody was really talking about postbiotics or paraprobiotics, right? Which is that no one's using that term anymore. But the postbiotic is the organism, the live organism that's been killed, heat killed or whatever, and can't reactivate. There are levels, by the way. It could be dormant and could reactivate into a probiotic. But a postbiotic, by definition, I think everyone agrees now, is the organism that's been killed. And when it's been killed, that organism releases all that complex matrix of metabolites and stuff that deliver the benefit. And of course, that tracks to the research studies that are being done in that space. But I do have a theory, is that if you're taking a probiotic, there's obviously a certain amount of postbiotic in that product that you're taking, right? And so some researchers started to ask this question, okay, so what level of postbiotic is in this probiotic supplement I'm taking, and what is its contribution to the health benefit there? Is it solely from the probiotic, or is it the result of the postbiotic?
Excellent question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, we'll stay tuned for that to see more coming out of that. Anything else you want to add to this or wrap it up, Gene?
Well, let's see. We got 3 minutes left. I had a wild and crazy idea. Quickly zipping down the list without elaborating. Why don't we toss out some doses that we know that can be effective for some of these different ones? So let's start at the top. Astaxanthin, I'd say about 4 milligrams or more. Resveratrol, about 150 milligrams, has been shown to help with SIRT1. NAD boosters, I know niacinamide, 200 milligrams, is certainly beneficial. You can jump in anytime if you want. The TA65, I don't really recall. I think I want to say somewhere around 45 milligrams. Omega-3 fatty acids, yes, the sky's the limit. It depends upon what you're using, but I would say that somewhere around 500 to 1,000 milligrams of omegas are a good place to start. Mm-hmm. Vitamin D, anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 units, I'd say, right?
Mm-hmm. And then Miracell you guys just did this pilot study with the
it's 3.3 milligrams of spermidine from that. And why do we come up with that? Because there was a previous study that had been done with spermidine once upon a time, and we tried a couple different dose levels and found this was the one that really moved the dial.
Good to know.
Curcumin, again, all over the board, depends upon what you're using. But generally speaking, like if you're using a 95% material, you want to use somewhere around maybe 1,500. But if you're using a highly, like one that's, like I know there's one called, what's it called? Termex or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, 250 milligrams was shown to be good. So it all depends on, the form you're taking. Sulforaphane, I don't remember. I just don't remember the dose.
No,
I want to say around 100.
I didn't pull up for every one of these. Some of these we know, of course.
Yeah,
Resveratrol is like
150 I mentioned already. So yeah.
Yeah. And then
spermidine again, 3.3. N-acetylcysteine, about 600 milligrams seems to be a good minimum level. Green tea, if memory serves, somewhere in the area of 450. If it's standardized. Is
depends
good.
on the EGCG.
Totally
profile.
depends on that, right?
Yeah.
If it's like a 50% or something. Berberine,
it's like 1,500.
Yeah, I do 1,500.
Yeah.
You can do anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 and get some good result.
Yeah.
Chromium, somewhere around to 400 or 400 micrograms daily. Yeah. CoQ10, minimum 100.
Again, there's bioavailability challenges here as well. So again, like ubiquinol is the
that's the active
bodies
form.
can use. The active form we can use. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, everybody as the age, but I think we can call this out. I know a little bit about this because we worked on the acquisition of Qunol for Sanofi, and we studied all the
I did
tech.
work for them for years, so
You did too. That's right. I forgot. Yeah. Well, anyway, what about PQQ?
PQQ, most of the research is done at 20 milligrams.
Yeah. Okay. And L-carnitine, it's a couple grams.
There's different doses you can use, but I'm aware of a couple of studies that use 1,000 milligrams at a time.
Okay.
Alpha lipoic acid. Let's see if I can remember that. I want to say somewhere around 50 milligrams. I just don't recall.
Yeah.
Fisetin, I think.
I don't know that one.
Well, the problem is
the studies
100 milligram doses to 500 milligram doses. Quercetin, again, I've seen it all over the board, but
depends on the study, and there's not a lot. Again, there's
similarly 100 to 500 is. Epigenetic, I don't remember at all. Again, nice nicotinamide, riboside or NMN. I would say for niacinamide at 200 milligrams. Panax ginseng, if it's standardized, around 7%. Ginsenosides, somewhere around 100 to 200 milligrams. And colostrum, I don't remember.
Isn't colostrum like 100 or 200 milligrams or something?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I think it's in that range.
And then we already talked omega-3s. We already talked curcumin. Probiotics is all over the board.
It depends on what it is. If it's a postbiotic, it's obviously going to be based on weight. So whatever is clinically used. For example, we had a postbiotic for deep sleep that we developed, or not developed, but we launched in a product, and it was 25 milligrams for that dose. It was supported by the clinical data. So again, you got to check the clinical data. Yeah.
If you're using a probiotic, let's say in the Bacillus genus, like Bacillus subtilis or Bacillus coagulans, then I can tell you probably somewhere in the range of 1 to 5 billion is good, but otherwise it's all over the board. Yeah. Postbiotics also all over the board, and Boswellia if it's standardized. Yeah, well, and then Boswellia if it's standardized for boswellic acid, somewhere around 1 or 200 milligrams. Black seed oil. That's again all over the board, 400, 500 milligrams. And Maricel we already talked about. And let's see.
That's it.
We talked about everything else. Yeah. So we covered it. Yay! That's pretty good.
There you go. There's a crash course in the dosages, but don't hold us to that. Check.
Yeah, because we did it off the top of our head. Don't remember it at all.
So again, it's we'll close it up here, Gene. So it's look at as a consumer, you want to really do your research there to find clinically supported, and by general rule, these branded ingredients that are in a finished product usually have their own research around it. But again, some product brands are not responsible, and they don't put the full dosage based on the clinical study. So simply just due to cost. So again, you got to do your homework on this. And actually, I know about a technology app, a health tech app that's going to be coming out soon that's going to solve this problem. Nutraselect. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and it's like it's obvious we need a tool to be able to do this because there's too much out there. There's too many products on the market, Gene. Let's be honest, right?
It wouldn't be so bad that there were too many products if the majority of them had any demonstrated efficacy. But
exactly, that's a topic for another day that we'll get into.
It is.
Okay, folks, that wraps it up for us. We do have an upcoming episode for the bioactive breakdown on GLP-1. We know that's a hot topic. We're just lining up our third panelist. Again, for the bioactive breakdown, we deep dive the science and we get industry members to join us in a panel that we go through. So stay tuned for that. That's coming this month, I would say, right? Probably within the next couple of weeks, I hope. And we'll do that.
I know I owe you another call from a guest that I was going to bring.
Yes.
So I'm waiting to get a call back.
Sounds good. And then that's it. Anything else, Gene?
Yeah, that's it for the moment.
Okay, I'm going to take us out of here. All right.